Economics, finance, politics. This is Bloomberg Surveillance. I'm Francine Lacqua here in London. Now, let's focus in on hedge funds as they report 2018 performances. A chasm has emerged between managers who outperformed and those who saw staggering losses. One bright spot was Ray Dalio's Bridgewater. Its pure alpha fund returned 14.6%, but many of its peers did not fare as well. Bill Ackman's Pershing Square outperformed the average hedge fund, but still ended the year in the red. And one of the worst major performers was David Einhorn's Greenlight Capital, which saw the worst performance in its 22-year history. Now, administrators for the struggling Italian lender Carige are said to be preparing a €1 billion bond sale. Newspaper Il Messaggero says the bond is being prepared, quote, thanks to the state guarantee. Now, the report comes after the administrators said they aren't considering any plan to nationalize the bank, even as Italian's populist leaders say that's the government goal. Joining us now, Francesco Castelli. He's fund manager at Banor Capital, and still with us, James Athey from Aberdeen Standard Investments. So thank you for sticking around, James, and welcome to the program. Francesco, what happens with Carige? First of all, is it systemically important?
Well, that's a very good point, because if a bank is systemically important, that opens to a lot of solutions like the MPS solution, where we had precautionary recapitalization. If a bank is too small, probably precautionary recapitalization cannot be authorized by European authorities. So one of the options we have on the table is the government intervening and making the bank let's say, state-owned under precautionary recapitalization. But it needs to be large enough, and that's a very good point. There was an article on the Italian newspaper at the beginning of the year where Mr. Angeloni from the ECB said that it's regionally important to the bank, so we may argue that it's systemically big enough, but that obviously this point is very open for discussion with the European authorities at the moment.
Okay, what's the best solution? First of all, if something ugly happens with Carige, and I don't know whether this is timeline or this is, you know, the leaders of Italy not wanting to deal with it in a market-friendly way, what is the, you know, potential pitfall for the rest of Italy? Does it drag other big Italian banks down with it?
Well, it wouldn't drag other big Italian banks. I think the big risk is that smaller regional lenders, and there are many of them in Italy, they do rely on retail funding, and so a disorderly solution for Carige would be potentially a big problem for smaller lenders. I don't think big lenders have a large exposure to the situation per se. But certainly, coming back to the government, it was very important to see this piece of regulation issued a few days ago, because it affirms that the government is taking care of the problem. And that's obviously, it wasn't clear before, because one of the parties in government in the past has physically criticized the intervention supporting banks like Monte Paschi, like the Venetian banks. So this is a very strong statement for the government. We are here, we are ready to help Carige, and so I think for the system was very important.
Francesco, let me ask you one final question on actually how you think the most elegant solution is, and then I'll ask James if he's buying Italian banks. What's the best way out of this?
Well, obviously,
finding a buyer?
Of course.
Who would buy it?
As yesterday there was a news on UniCredit potentially being interested, if the government foots the bill. Unfortunately, when it comes to, you can see from previous deals made by Intesa, that if you ask another bank, please take care of this one, this smaller one, they will probably say, yes, of course, I will do like Intesa, please help me out. And so the most elegant solution would be finding a real private buyer interested in a bank, and there is still a possibility of pursuing this path, even though it's becoming less and less likely. The other elegant solution would be trying to find a way to merge it with a larger bank, probably with some form of government support, be it not only in terms of capital, but probably also in terms of guarantees for the non-performing loans. loans. As we saw with the Venetian banks, loans were offloaded to a state-controlled entity, SGA, and so the government, with the recent bill, has opened the path to this solution as well.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Francesco Castelli, their fund manager at Banor Capital, and James Athey from Aberdeen Standard Investments.